welcome to DeadX Wrestling. I'm your host, Devon Torres, aka DeadX, and I'm here to tell you a story. So, when I was a little kid, excuse my dog sighing in the background, he always gets to make inappropriate run-ins. When I was a little boy growing up, there's only two things that I really had to grasp onto that kind of entertained me and kept me busy throughout my youth. And those two things were video games and pro wrestling. You see, I grew up, to tell my story to you guys a little bit, I grew up in a household, in a life, I guess you could say, with, I didn't have my mom or dad around for the big majority of my life because my mom was battling drug addictions and having to handle that on her own, and my dad was in prison for 11 years of my life. And I was forced to, well, not forced to, but my grandmother, or my Nana, as I call her, pretty much took custody of me and took care of me and did everything she could, like work two jobs to try to make me happy and try to give me anything that I could possibly want. But still, for a very long time, there was a lot of nights where I would lay in bed and I would cry, asking, where's my mommy? Where's my dad? Why do I look at that damn Disney Channel and I see these perfect little families, but, I don't have one of my own? And I struggled with that for a very long time. And I was never satisfied at that age with anything I had, I don't think. But that isn't until I found two things that kept me busy and helped me define myself and helped me, express myself in a more positive way. And those two things, again, were video games and pro wrestling. So let me tell you about pro wrestling. Let me tell you why I love pro wrestling. Let me tell you how I fell in love with pro wrestling. And let me tell you about this brand new YouTube channel and introduce you to DeadX Wrestling. My name is Devon Torres again. I also go by the nickname DeadX. I kind of got it from a place called FTW Predictions League on Facebook. It's a group where, we predict wrestling, you do promos and stuff like that. It's really fun. I'm currently their reigning and defending two-time world champion, but I don't mean to brag. But when I fell in love with pro wrestling, it was all pretty much because of my grandmother. I remember a couple times sitting there and watching it while she had it flipped on USA every once in a while, and on SmackDown on UPN or on My Network TV, whatever it was at the time when I was younger. And I remember watching it off and on since the age of me being 4 years old, but at that point I still wasn't hooked. I still wasn't into it very much. I remember walking into my grandmother, my Nana, walking into Nana's room one time, and it was during the guest host era of Raw. What a time that was, right? And Bob Barker was there for some reason, the guy from Price is Right. Spay neuter your dogs and cats, everybody. I never truly thought what he meant by that. I thought it was kind of weird that he would say that all the time, but nowadays you freaking, hey, you should spay and neuter your animals. You don't want a bunch of little stray cats killing the local bird populations. Support the planet, people. Anyways, but there was one moment that I remember vividly where we were in a video store, a Blockbuster, something like that, and I had begged my Nana to let me rent this random cool looking wrestling DVD that I found of Backlash 2004. And Backlash 2004, when I seen that match between Randy Orton and Mick Foley, wow. At that point, I was hooked, and ever since, I've been a pro wrestling fan, through highs and lows. One of my favorite storylines growing up was the Nexus invading, because I was young and dumb, and I thought it was really cool. And as a 10-year-old kid, or whatever age I was a John Cena mark. I'm sorry, I have to admit it, but I grew up in that era, so I don't know, sue me or something? But as I got older, just like most wrestling fans, I got into the nuances and the lore and getting deep into facts, so much so that I pretty much know like a shit ton about pro wrestling. And that's what brings me here on this YouTube channel today. I wanted to make a YouTube channel because I've seen a lot of YouTube channels and I kind of want to do what they're doing. I want to talk about one of the things that I guess has saved me from a lot of sadness, one of those things that has brought me a lot of sunshine in dark places, if you will. Pro wrestling. Because pro wrestling is an escape. It's an escape for a lot of people. It's funny, seeing, when you're having a bad day and you flip on, WrestleMania and Sami Zayn is getting caught in a mousetrap, you know what I mean? So I wanted to tell you guys officially, welcome to DeadX Wrestling, my official YouTube channel about all things pro wrestling. And let me tell you about some of the things that I got coming up on the channel. I have my list right here. We're going to start a brand new series. It should come out on either Sunday or Monday, I believe. And it's an idea that I borrowed from Cultaholic. Yeah, let's say borrowed. It's not stealing until you get caught. Don't kill me, Cultaholic. I'm just trying to have fun. Wrestlers of the Week. It's an old concept that Jack the Jobber used to do on Cultaholic, and it was one of my favorite things that they used to do. And they stopped doing it. Jack stopped doing Wrestlers of the Week. Probably because it's a lot of work to keep fucking score and to make a video once a week about your favorite matches of the week or whatever. But I'm going to do it because I'm a psychopath. Ding. I have a new video series also called Spotlight, where I'm just gonna make like a long form video about like cool moments, cool spots, cool like just things that I thought were really cool and I wanted to point out in wrestling history. Mostly focused on like cool moves and spots, hence the term Spotlight. But it'll also be stuff like maybe promo pieces, crazy bumps. I don't know, just crazy stuff. I'm going to do the typical wrestling channel thing of doing reviews of the most current shows, the most current pay-per-views, and of AEW weekly television. I'm not going to do reviews of NXT 2.0. I'm not going to do reviews of Raw and SmackDown just because I'm not a masochist. I don't like that pain of sitting through all that content. I'm going to do retro reviews as well, and I'm going to review every WWE pay-per-view because the pay-per-views are pretty much like the best WWE viewing experience at this point. I feel like that's not really hard to debate. I'm going to do retrospectives, like videos about one subject, like, for instance, the Nexus Invasion, or, the Invasion storyline, or the foundation of the NWO, the Montreal Screwjob, all those videos you've already seen a million times. But I want to give my own take on some of those big moments in wrestling history and on like maybe some of my favorite wrestlers, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do top lists and tier lists. My first tier list is going to come out probably tomorrow, and it's going to be me ranking the AEW roster in a tier list. So stick around and watch that. I'm going to do more basic long-form stories or short-form stories. It depends on how I'm feeling in the moment about like my experiences with wrestling, stories I have with wrestling that pretty much specifically involve me. I'm going to do a weekly wrap-up podcast of pretty much like the whole encompassing biggest things that happened in the week, and that'll go for maybe like an hour long. I don't know. And I'm going to try to get different guests on the show every week if I possibly can. And, hey, if you're interested in being on that podcast with me and you're a pro wrestling fan, I guess reach out to me. I'm also going to do fantasy booking videos because there's a lot. That's one of those biggest things I wanted to do with this channel, is make the fantasy booking videos. I see like all this stuff in like between WWE and all these other places. Like AEW isn't perfect either, but I see all this stuff of like somebody who got released from WWE, for example, and I want to make like videos and opinions on how I would have handled them better as a talent, because WWE sometimes with a lot of those people drop the ball. in my opinion. The Super Trivia Game Show, which I used to do on the FTW Predictions League group thing, is going to be moved over to my YouTube channel. And I'm going to cut out the FTW part just for simplicity's sake, since it's on my YouTube channel mostly now. But everybody is still going to be able to play that with me. And then I'm going to do wrestling gaming stuff like WWE 2K22, which is the most recent game that come out. And just one-offs and opinion videos. And that's pretty much all that I have for you guys. That's a lot of stuff I just said, and that's a lot of content, and it's going to take a long time for me to trickle all that in and make a definitive schedule for me to do that, because this is my first channel that I'm going to take super seriously. I do have another channel just called DTX720 where I've done some Pokemon card things, I've done some, Let's Plays of video game stuff, and I will still do that on occasion. But this channel I want to take a lot more seriously, because I don't know what it is, but pro wrestling is a big discussion piece in my life. Not really it's not like something like when I don't really go up to random people and then talk about Pokemon cards, and video games and pro wrestling are pretty much those biggest discussion pieces. And when I play video games, I kind of like to do it myself. But when I talk about wrestling, I want to be more involved with everybody. That's what this channel is all about. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this introduction video. Excuse me, that's going to wrap up this introduction video to my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for all the greatest content coming your way. Thank you.